Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of Shooting Rabbits in a Barrel, a podcast brought to you by Scarecrow Consultants. I'm delighted once again, after long last, to be joined today by fellow Scarecrow, John. Hey, John, how's it going?
Hi, Jess. Very good, thank you. And how are you this morning?
I am fine. It's hot, but I'm coping.
It's summer, hottest day of the year yesterday, so...
Grim. Well, this is a treat, John, because Scarecrow, I mean, not to brag, but we've been so busy recently that you and I haven't seen each other actually in a really long time. So listeners get to be party to us having an actual conversation after several weeks of us training, driving around to all sorts of places. So I'm excited because we haven't had you on in a while for what story you might be sharing with us today. So Two questions to remind our listeners. What story would you like to share with us today, which I almost just did, and what valuable lesson did you learn? John, what story would you like to share with us today?
Okay, well, this story, as ever, kind of took a bit of a turn halfway through the story, which didn't work out, which went against me. And you might be detecting a pattern in these stories. However, there's a happy ending to this. So,
good.
Spoiler alert to that. So I'm calling this story Houdini, Me-dini, okay? And the reason for that will become apparent as we go through.
Do you like Houdini? Oh my God!
Oh, yeah, what a surprise! And so this goes back to it's the spring of April of 2010, and to give people a marker of when that was, it was at the same time as the Icelandic volcano went up, and all the flights were delayed. It was that weekend. So anyway, so the story starts a few months before that. So in 2009, I used to run a small consultancy company, as you're well aware, Jess, and we were bought out towards the end of 2009 by a bigger company. So we had to go and work for this other company. And so there were only a handful of us that used to work for the company that was bought out. So we went over, and this bigger company were kind of all looking at me, and there was me and a bunch of other people, Simon and Mike, and so there was a lot of pressure on us to kind of perform well, and in particular on me, because they were saying, well, why have we bought this company, for this guy? And so the marketing department called me in for a meeting, and they said, well, what we need to do, we need to put a marker down and shout out to the world why we bought this company. And they said, right, so what we want you to do is to come up with an example model to demonstrate how you can use model-based systems engineering. So if people aren't aware, model-based systems engineering, MBSE, is my particular field of expertise. And they said, can you come up with an example for us to demonstrate how it can be used? I said, yeah, not a problem. And they said, for example, can it be used on real-time systems? I said, yeah, any system. They said, can it be used on safety critical systems? I said, yeah, any systems, not a problem. They said, what about real-time safety? I go, yes, I don't know how many times I have to say this. Yes. Yeah. Any system. They said, great, can you come up with an example, like for PR purposes, and then we can kind of record something, this system, you can build this system, model it, build it, and then we can. So I said, yeah, no problem. I said, what's the budget? And they said, well, there isn't one. And I said, well, how am I supposed to do this? They said, well, look, we told everyone you're going to do this PR thing now, you've got to do it. I said, oh, blimey. So anyway, the following week I was in Paris, and in Paris in France, not Paris in Wales. Easy confusion to me. So I was in Paris doing some work, and I was having some wine in a lovely sort of Parisian cafe bar that evening. And I do my best thinking when I've had a glass of wine. And this was in my drinking days, Jess, as well. So I'd had a bottle of myself.
And back in your drinking days, okay.
Yeah. And so I had this brilliant idea, and I thought, I'll tell you what we could do. So I'm a bit of a fan, as we've already established, of Harry Houdini, the world's most famous escapologist of all time. So people who don't know what escapology is, it's escaping from life-threatening situations before you die. And that's entertainment, I can tell you, at the highest caliber. And so there's a very famous Houdini stunt. Are you aware of the concrete coffin stunt? Yes.
No,
not many people are. So anyway, so one of the stunts that Houdini did, and it's a famous stunt, and a number of other people have done it since, but people have died doing it as well. So it's a proper, and so what you do, you get a field, and you dig a hole in the field, and you get a coffin, and you tie a person up, and you put that person in the coffin, and you nail down the coffin lid, and you put the coffin in the hole in the field, then you fill the hole with concrete. The concrete gradually goes to the top, and then the person has to escape before they die. Okay. So this is called the concrete coffin escape, and it's basically real time because the concrete will set, and if you don't get out before then, it's also safety critical. And there's very, very clear success criteria. It's kind of binary success criteria.
Get out alive.
Yeah, and there's all sorts of, and it's a brilliant systems engineering problem because there's all sorts of constraints and things, and concrete is exothermic, and so it generates heat. So when you're in concrete, it burns your skin and stuff like that, and it acts as an insulator. So when you're in the coffin, it's like being in a thermos flask. And so it's a brilliant. So I went back to them and said, look, we could do this. We could get an anthropologist, and we could pay them. We could do this. And they looked at it, and they all looked at each other. I don't know what I said. Too expensive, right? Not too dangerous, too expensive.
The corporate world exposed.
Yeah, and they said too expensive. They said we really like the idea of someone putting their life on the line for MBSE. Can you go away and think of something cheaper? So I went away, and I'm on the Houdini vibe now.
Yeah.
So I go, well, what do you think of when you think of Houdini? You think of straitjackets, okay? Well, most people do. Yeah. And so, and I thought, well, what we could do the famous straitjacket stunt where he's on a crane or some sort of rope in a straitjacket, hoisted up by his ankles, upside down into the air, and he has to escape before he passes out from being upside down up in the air and all the rest of it. So I went back and said, look, we do this. This is far cheaper. And they went, it's not safety critical enough. I said, well, there's going to be a person on a rope upside down in the air, dangling, having to escape before they pass out. I went, well, how do we set fire to the rope? And I said, yeah, that's been done as well. Yeah, that could be done. And so they said, right, who are you going to get to do it? So I said, well, we need to get, I said, we just get an escapologist to do it. They said, yeah, but the thing is, for reasons we don't want people to say that we conned somebody into it and they didn't know what they were doing. It needs to be an escapologist who's also a systems engineer in the UK, right? So I don't know if you've ever done the Venn diagram of practicing escapologists in the UK and practicing systems engineers, because I have, and I can tell you with a high degree of confidence that there's about 20 practicing escape artists, and the number fluctuates. I'm not sure why. And let's say 20,000 practicing systems, and there's no intersection whatsoever. So I went back and said there aren't any, and I went, oh. So that's a problem because we've kind of told everyone now what we're doing. So they said, oh, I'll tell you what. They said Houdini was also a magician. They said, what about if we got a magician to do it? And because they're related disciplines, and they could train up and they could do. She says, oh, great. I said, you know what? I do know. I did the Venn diagram of systems engineers and magicians. Okay, let's say there's 2,000 magicians, 20,000, and that there's two that come up on the intersection that I'm aware of. Okay, so I ring this guy called David, who lived in Basildon in Essex of all places. Now, I lived in Basildon for a while. Believe me, if you could escape from anything, it would be Basildon. And so, so I rang.
No offense meant to the people of Basildon.
I lived. Yeah, I don't know. They're too busy throwing sticks at a reflection of the moon.
Stop! Stop! Carry on with the story. Okay, so there's two people. You rang your friend Dave.
I rang this guy Dave up, who I'd met in an Cozy conference. So no, he was a magician. So I rang him. I said, look, we got this idea. He says, would you? He went, yeah. Tell me more about it. So I told him all about it. He went, no, I'm not mad. Just hung up the phone on me. And so I thought, oh, so I said, you won't do it. And they went, oh, this is a bit of a problem now. Now, the biggest problem now, I've kind of painted myself into a corner, because the other person who's a practice systems engineer and also a professional magician happens to be me, hence my Houdini obsession. So I'd say at this point, I'm going, they're going, well, you could do it. I go, well, I don't really want to do it. And they said, no, but you could do it. I said, yeah, I don't want to. And they said, why? I said, well, I don't really want to die. And they said, yeah, but you just told us you can do. So I've got no way out. So I said, oh, okay, yeah, obviously I'll do it. I've got absolute confidence in MBSE. So we had to model, so I had to buy a straitjacket to begin with. And again, I don't think you've ever tried buying a straitjacket. They're not that easy to buy. I had to get one imported from America, from the US straitjacket company.
That checks.
But for some reason, there's a lot more demand over in the States for them than there is in the UK. So I think I'm the only engineer in the UK to have ever invoiced a straitjacket on company expenses. But so I bought this straitjacket. I've still got it, and so we had to then. I had to then look at how to escape from one. So we had two guys. It was Mike and Simon modelling. Because then they said, "I said it's all right. I'll model it all." And they went, "No, we can't do that. We've got to have other people modelling it as well. Otherwise, it all seems like you might have faked it." So Mike and Simon, no shortage of volunteers to model this, by the way, from the people in the company. They modelled the whole crane and the setup and the rope and how bouncy the rope is or stretchy or whatever, and the height and all this sort of stuff. And I did all the research on how to actually escape from a straitjacket because, again, there's not that much literature on it. And all the literature that's written by Harry Houdini has lies in it deliberately.
Oh.
Because he wanted to deter competitors. So one myth about getting out of straitjackets, which you might have heard, if you say to people, "How do you get out of a straitjacket?" they go, "Oh, you dislocate your shoulder." And I don't think you've heard it. It's a famous. That's not true, right? Houdini put this in all his books. He said that's how you do it. Because what happens if you dislocate your shoulder? You really, really damage yourself for quite a long time. And so he did this so that all his competitors would dislocate their shoulders and put themselves out of action.
I love that.
So the literature was rubbish, and we knew it was full of lies. So we couldn't trust most of it. And there's not that much modern stuff. So we had to get videos of Harry Houdini escaping in the 1910s and 1920s. The earliest black and white footage with no sound or anything had been, and me doing activity diagrams trying to reverse engineer what on earth he's actually doing to get out of it. So we did all this. So I modelled the actual escape and out of the straitjacket and the rest of it. And I had to do the research on dangers involved with upside down straitjacket escapes. And so I learned all sorts of interesting things. So, for example, there's a height above which, if your arms are restrained and you're upside down, you shouldn't fall on your head because you'll die. Right.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And that height is 6.
6 what?
Centimeters.
Right.
So
okay.
Anything above that, it doesn't matter if it's 600 meters. It's the result. It's messier if the higher up it is, but the end result's the same. And so Mike and Simon are looking at fuses and how long they take to burn and how long the rope burn time and all this sort of stuff. So they do all the parametric constraints. And we did the sequences, all the sequences. So scenario modeling that we've spoken about previously on this podcast, but with slightly different concepts in this one. So we did all the scenario modeling and the parametrics and all this sort of stuff, and it's great. And so we rented a crane in this work yard in somewhere near Cheltenham, and it was in April, and it was an unusual sunny day. That'll be relevant in a moment. So we toddle up there. So I'm there with the straitjacket and the thing. So and it's a massive crane going up, and this sort of concrete yard. And so the guys that running the yard, feeling all sympathetic, just said, "Oh, you know what, I love it." So they put a blanket on the concrete for me just in case I fell. I thought, oh,
that's nice. Yeah.
I mean, I think they were more worried about having to scrub up the stains off their.
Yeah, it's really just so you can pull the sheet up. Oh, look at that.
So we did the thing. So I went upside down. Up here, the 2-minute timer went down. So there's a tick, 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 because you need that. Because the thing is, now I don't want to brag. I can get out of a straitjacket in about 20 seconds. But there's no point. If it's a 2-minute timer, it's a transferable life skill. If it's a 2-minute timer, there's no point getting out in 2 minutes, in 20 seconds, because everyone will just go. Ugh. What you need to do is get out in 2 minutes and 2 seconds, because then people really start to get vested into it. You have to struggle. And I mean, don't get me wrong, even I can get out in 20 seconds. That's not always the case. And there's always factors on the day, so it was a genuine life-threatening situation. But obviously, you do the timing so you can ham it up a little bit so that you can get out just in time, so that when they whip the fuse out, it's just starting to burn the road, because that builds excitement and that sort of stuff. So we did this, and up I go on this rope on this crane, and we set the timer and then the timing. So I'm imagining upside down like this sort of.
Yeah,
so
no, I've got it.
I do the this is how you present escaping the straitjacket upside down, and so I did that, and I said brilliant, and I thought, oh, God, I should do that again, because it was quite scary, So I got to change my trousers, obviously, and then we came up to look at the footage, and they went, oh. And I went, what? And they went, oh, it's quite sunny, isn't it, today? Went, yeah. What's the relevance of that? And straitjacket's all white. Okay, I'm wearing a pair of black trackies, and they hoisted me up above the ski. this massive tall bush. So I was right up in the air, and the sky in the background, all you could see was a pair of black joggers and a upside down. You couldn't see the straight jacket, you couldn't see the rope or anything. So I just said, well, you're going to have to do it again, aren't you? So within the space of 20 minutes, I then had to get, we had to get another fuse, you had to put me back in the straight jacket, we had to do it again, but with a slightly different background. We had to change the orientation so we could get the contrast. So you could actually see the straight jacket of me, me escaping from it. And so they videoed this, put the footage online and everything like that. And I had a couple of papers published in Cozy UK with this. It's a case study in one of our books in the MBRE.
Yes,
it's the case study in that. And yes, we genuinely did this. I don't want to give the ending away, Jess, but I'm still here. So
wow.
So that is that's the Houdini Me-dini story.
Oh my goodness, I'm excited because I actually just read that case study in your book last week. So I'm hyped that I've had the real life behind the scenes. Is this footage still available somewhere?
Unfortunately, the copyright is owned by the company that I used to work for. And the last time I looked, because people often ask it isn't. There is footage of me doing a straitjacket escape, but not upside down on the burning rope. Because as you know, I do STEM stuff. So I'm doing mathematics. And I do a magic stage show sort of thing for that. So there is some footage of me doing a vertical straitjacket escape, but with escapology, there needs to be a real element of danger. Otherwise, there's no point doing it. It's kind of like gambling. It's like there's no point playing cards unless you're doing it for money because you've got no vested interest.
Oh, so yes, no fun.
I would get a child up off stage and give them a hammer and give them my phone, and we'd set a timer. And then if I didn't get out in 2 minutes, they would smash up my phone. Okay, but I learned very quickly what I had to do is to give them a proper phone, but one of my old ones. You give a kid a hammer and then go, now you're not allowed to hit that anymore. They don't really like that. So they tend to go smashy before they. So we did it with the phone and the hammer. I started off doing it with 2 children and foam baseball bats, and the idea was if I didn't get out into it, they would hit me with these bats. But
a human pinata.
Yeah, but the trouble is that you give 2 kids foam baseball bats, they just go smashing up the stage and stuff. So there is footage of me doing straitjacket escapes online. If you look up the Pythagorean Cabaret, there's footage of me doing this live on stage. But like I say, vertical and so on. And I kind of tell the story of it, and then it's So there we go. That's me. Well, I went through. So I was after publishers, I got invited to go and do this as a talk to lots of. And I went to Germany. Okay, I went to Wolfsburg, the home of Volkswagen, and I went there and I was going through customs, and customs people aren't well known for their sense of humour. So I'm going through with a straitjacket in my bag, and I've got hand luggage, and all the buckles, there's quite a lot of buckles on it, set off the X-ray alarm. So they pulled me over into the thing, the boom at the side, and I had to unzip it, get out the straitjacket and hold it up to these German sort of customs officials, and they're just going, as usual, I won't do the voice, but they're saying, what's this? And I'm having to explain in pidgin German what a straitjacket is to these lovely officials. And in the end, they just sort of went, I think we understand, and winked and let me go on with the straitjacket. So since then, I've changed all the buckles from metal to plastic, like you get on camping things, to avoid this situation. So anyway, there we go.
Oh my goodness. Okay, the next question, I want to ask more, but I'll ask you in our own time. John, what valuable systems engineering lesson did you learn from dangerous exploits?
The lesson that we were hoping that people would learn, which we kind of did, but the whole purpose behind it was the classic, how do you do systems engineering? People, process and tools. Okay? So it's like, well, we need the people with the right skills. So I trained myself up as the escapologist. We had Simon and Mike who were following the process and doing all the proper MBSE modelling and the safety critical modelling and all this sort of stuff. So for a very brief window of time, I was referred to in Incos UK as the man who put his life on the line for MBSE. It only lasted about a week. and then people just went, that annoying bloke with the straight jacket, it then turned into it. But and then we had the tools, because at the time the company we were working for, due to various modelling tools and so on, so we were using that. And it is this, and I know it's something we talk about when we're doing our training at a high level. We say, you know, it's a little bit of a dated sort of people process tools now, but it still holds true. And it is having that right combination, and importantly, the right, and again, as we often talk about, Jess, the right relationship between them. So there'd be no point having a brilliant escapologist if the people following the safety critical processes and the emergency scenario processes didn't do their job properly. Likewise, there'd be no job having the best safety critical modelling and all the emergency processes and this sort of thing if you've got a person who can't get out of the straitjacket.
Yeah.
And likewise, there's no point having the best approach or processes in the world if you don't have the tools to then validate what it is you've got. So it's not just the people, process and tools. It's, you know, the emphasis has really got to be on the relationships between them, or, you know, I should say the dependencies between them, because they are dependencies, and it's getting that right balance between them, which I think is so important, which is what we had to have then, because in all seriousness, I was going up on this rope and I had to have a lot of confidence in the way that this whole thing had been done.
Yeah.
You know, which I did, and like I say, thankfully I'm still here. But yeah, so it's really the whole sort of people, process, tools sort of thing. It is very, very important, and as I said, it to me it's more the dependencies between these things rather than obviously the things themselves are important, but they've got to relate and they've got to match up.
Yeah, it's like intrinsic to our nature as systems engineers. We integrate, and it's not just that we're integrating the technology, we're integrating all these different aspects to realize a successful system, and that emphasis as well on the people side of it as well, communication, bringing the right people with the right attitude, how important that is into actually delivering something that's technical, that's a, you know, physical bolts and metal system kind of thing. Good lessons. Sorry, go ahead, John.
No, and I say, and this was also as a good example, because it wasn't just about if anything, the physical part of the system was the simplest bit.
Yeah,
it's just a crane and a rope. But the safe critical bit came in on all the safety cases and the processes that we had to follow in order to make it safe, and the processes that you don't see in the video, which is the people on standby ready to cut the rope down and try and catch and all this kind of stuff. And so it's not, and I think very often people emphasize the physical aspects of the system, but actually it's the process side of things as well, it's the functionality. It's the people that make that safe, as opposed to the physical parts of the system itself.
Yeah, there's one of those definitions that we use all the time in our training, isn't there? And it lists out something like, it lists out all different things. It's services, personnel, something, but it's all these other non-technical things, and it's there. You can't ignore it. It's part of our job as systems engineers to consider all this stuff. Oh, I've got more questions about the trick.
I was gonna. It's not a trick, Jess. It's a stunt.
Sorry, stunt.
I was going to put the straight jacket on this morning, but then I realised that I live by myself, and you can't get into a straight jacket by yourself. And Smeaton, talented though he is, my cat, he got up to the job. So.
That's sad times. Well, that's something for him to work on. We can all improve ourselves, even Smeaton. That's like to be more helpful with straight jacket stunts. I know you said tricks then. All right then, John. Well, thank you. So it's been wonderful to have you back.
Thank you.
And to have more wild and wonderful stories from the magical world of John Holt. And listeners, if you think you can top that, no, we'd love to have you on here with your own stories and your own systems engineering lessons.
The issues raised in
if you've been, we need that on a lot of them. No disrespect, John. Then you can get in contact with us at rabbits@scarecrowconsultants.co.uk, and we'd love to have you join us. So, John, I'll see you again later, hopefully not quite in like 6 weeks' time. But listeners, thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next time.